Hello friends, this is Dr. Praveen Khandelwal, consultant surgical oncologist at Apollo CBCC Cancer Care, Ahmedabad.
Hello friends, this is Dr. Vijay, consultant surgical oncologist at Apollo CBCC Cancer Care, Ahmedabad.
Today we are here to discuss about one of the gynecological cancers, that is cancers of the uterus, as September being the month for awareness of gynecological cancers. When I talk about uterine cancers, I specifically mean cancers of the body uterus and not cervix, as cervical cancers are a totally different entity in terms of treatment and prognosis. So the uterus is an organ which has three layers basically. The inner layer is the endometrium, the middle layer which is the muscular layer, the myometrium, and the outer serosel layer. So the cancers arising from the endometrium are called the endometrial cancers, which are the most common type, constituting about 90%, and today we'll be specifically talking on endometrial cancers. So endometrial cancers as such are not the most common in India, but they are the most common type of gynecological cancers in the West. So the incidence in India is about 100 to 110 women are diagnosed of about 1 lakh women. I mean, if you take 1 lakh women, 100 people are diagnosed with endometrial cancers. The prognosis for endometrial cancers is good, as most of the endometrial cancers are diagnosed in an early stage because they present with symptoms early. So now we'll be going into the details of endometrial cancers. Now we'll be knowing what are the risk factors for it. Dr. Vijay will be telling about the risk factors for endometrial cancer.
The risk factors of endometrial cancers are usually because of the higher estrogen exposure for the uterus, because that is a normal uterine function. Depending on the estrogen levels in the body, according to the menstrual cycles, it proliferates and it sheds down. This is a regular menstrual cycle. So if these cycles are happening over a longer period of time by early menarche or a late menopause, or if there are higher estrogen levels, which may be because of an hyperfunctioning ovary, which may be in the form of an ovarian tumor secreting higher estrogen levels, these all would be a risk factor for endometrial cancer, is number one. Second thing, other risk factors like obesity, which has also a greater role in being a risk factor for endometrioid type of endometrial cancers, even though there are few normal patients wherein endometrial cancers are still seen. This is one more risk factor. Family history, irradiation, like usage of radiation for some other reasons to the pelvis would again land up as a risk factor for uterine cancers. Apart from that, in case of breast cancers, we usually prescribe tamoxifen particularly if there are estrogen receptor positive cases. Longer usage of tamoxifen always has chance of the patient landing up in a uterine cancer. Plus the family history, as I've already mentioned. These are the main important risk factors for endometrial cancer. Now that we know about the risk factors of the endometrial cancers, Dr. Praveen, I would like you to ask about the symptoms about which the patients or the general public should be aware of.
Yes. The most common symptom of endometrial cancer is bleeding. Endometrial cancers are most common in postmenopausal women. Menopause, I mean when the menstrual cycles have not been there for around a year. So that is called menopause, and usually endometrial cancers are found in postmenopausal women, most common. It can be seen in premenopause also. So any small bleed per vaginum in the postmenopausal period should be investigated. That is the most common cause, most common symptom. 90% of the patients present with that symptom. If you think of in a premenopausal woman, any irregular bleeding or heavy bleeding should be investigated, because that the underlying cause may be an endometrial cancer. So in postmenopausal woman it is any bleeding, and in premenopausal woman it is heavy bleeding or an irregular bleeding should be investigated. Now when we have a clinical suspicion of endometrial cancer, so we would like to confirm our clinical suspicion or clinical diagnosis by doing investigations. Dr. Vijay will be telling us about the investigations which are done in endometrial cancer.
As you have mentioned that whenever a patient walks into a department with these symptoms like postmenopausal bleeding or anything, or any irregular menstrual cycles, the first thing which we need to do is a complete clinical examination, ask the previous cycles and when did she attain the menopause, And as you have mentioned about that 1 year time frame, also we need to be aware of it, because usually cycles will become irregular in the last phases of the menopause and then directly totally attain a menopause usually. So intermittent spotting and bleeding may still be there for about quite some period, and then the patients may land up in a total menopause wherein there won't be any bleeding at all. So in those cases, a proper clinical examination, which includes a pervaginal examination, also has to be done. And if anyways we have the first investigation and the easiest investigation available with anyone at any place is an ultrasound. So in the ultrasound, we would be looking at the uterus, the thickness of the endometrium, depending on which sometimes there would be a suspicion whether there is an endometrial hyperplasia, which means the thickness of the endometrium is more. That would never confirm that whether there is cancer or not. It would just tell that the endometrial thickness is more, which would again we need to see what is the reason for that by a tissue diagnosis, which can be done by using in just an OPD setting in the OP itself. When the patient comes in, we'll have to use an instrument called Pipel forceps, wherein we clear the endometrial layer, inner lining of the uterus, and send it for microscopic testing. If this is not possible, sometimes the patients do have severe bleeding, and in those cases usually we see gynecologists and everyone doing a dilatation and curettage, commonly known as DNC, of which again the tissue will be sent for testing. In that case, if the tissue reports as an endometrial cancer, then we would suggest for a staging workup. So initially the symptom, next the tissue diagnosis, and then the staging of the disease. Staging of the disease usually would be, as Dr. Praveen has already mentioned, that patients usually present in an early stage, but still we need to do a local workup first by an MRI of the pelvis, wherein we see the endometrium as well as the myometrium and the outer layer of the uterus, until what extent the tumor has involved, and along with that we would also see the regional lymph nodes wherein the disease would spread there. Apart from that, if we are suspicious that the patient has got any other systemic symptoms suggesting that the disease might have got spread from the uterus to elsewhere in the body, in those situations maybe a CT scan of that area or directly a whole body PET CT scan can also be done to properly stage the disease. So now that we know about the diagnosis and the staging, so I would like to ask Dr. Praveen, once the staging is done, what would be the treatment modalities with which the patients should be aware of?
Yes, Dr. Vijay. When now we know the stage of the disease, the treatment depends on the stage. The most common modality of treatment is surgery. Endometrial cancers, most of the patients are treated with surgery, as most of them are diagnosed in early stage. If it is a stage 1 disease or a stage 2 disease, it is usually surgery, and any adjuvant treatment is based on the stage. If the lymph nodes are involved, the staging will directly upstage the disease to stage 3. So then there will be adjuvant treatment with radiation and chemo also. The surgery we perform is hysterectomy. We remove the uterus with cervix, and we also do bilateral salpingophoria, that we remove the ovaries also. And based on the final stage, the adjuvant treatment is decided. If it is very early stage, that is stage 1A, and depending on the grade, we decide whether radiation is required or not. Radiation it can be intravaginal radiation, that is the brachytherapy, or it may be a pelvic radiation, that is from outside. So this is regarding treatment. Anything if you want to add, Dr. Vijay?
So we have almost covered all the treatment according to the stage, and this surgical procedure is done both by minimally invasive technique, that is by laparoscopy, by robotic, as well as open hysterectomy, open procedure. As you have mentioned regarding the lymph nodes, there is one more point which I want to add about the sentinel lymph node biopsy, which is also done recently. In those, again, as you have told, if the disease is confined only to the endometrium, even in the MRI and also on the Freund section, then these things are done. If the nodal positivity is there on MRI, then complete lymph node dissection is usually performed. And in case of metastatic settings, palliative chemotherapy is given. And otherwise, usually all the endometrial cancers are usually early cancers on diagnosis. So take home points of this talk are: any spotting post-menopausal needs to be evaluated. Let it be even a single drop, that has to be evaluated no matter what. It can be uterine cancer, it can be a cervix cancer, It can be normal also. If it is normal, we are good. But if it is abnormal, then we need to act upon it. So this is one most important thing which needs to be kept in mind. Lifestyle modifications to reduce obesity is very important. If there is family history, close vigilant follow-up is important, and treatment is must. So awareness is important for all these things, and the earlier the diagnosis, better the cure.
Yeah, so this was regarding uterine cancers.
So this is what for this week. We'll again come with the next topic regarding the gynecological awareness, that is about the ovarian cancers and the cervical cancers as well in our coming topics. Till then, stay home, stay safe, and bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you.